Hey guys, welcome back to Low Range. In this episode we're in the centre of Australia following the Old Ghan Railway. We get to the most remote pub in the world and see Lake Eyre from the sky. How lucky are we? What you're looking at is Australia's great inland sea. This sea contains 65,000 million megalitres of water, enough water to cover all the land on the planet half a metre over. The search for this sea drove explorers mad. The belief that Australia's large rivers all must lead to a huge inland body of water drew men into the desert obsessed. One of these believers was Charles Sturt. He led 3 such expeditions into the centre, but with no success. In 1878, Sturt died, and 9 years later, a shallow bore was sunk near the outback town of Bourke, and endless water erupted out of it. Australia's great artesian basin had been discovered.
Roothy's climbing sand dunes, Gleno's crossing creeks, Kenno's kept out yonder and it could be there for weeks. They're on an adventure, that is nothing strange. They love forward travel, living life in low range.
This journey has us starting from Alice Springs and taking the Old Ghan Heritage Trail south to the Aboriginal community of Finke. Once we're across the border, we'll take the Eden track to the smallest outback town in Australia, and that's where we're hoping to see Lake Eyre with water in it. Then lastly, we'll make our way to Cameron's Corner. Okay guys, this is where we swing off onto what they call the Old Ghan Heritage Trail.
Oh, cool. So that's the Old Ghan Railway line, isn't it?
I did my early learning, my early schooling in South Australia, where the Ghan was something of state pride. You know, it was one of the biggest achievements South Australia had had. And it was still running, obviously. It was still running until I was in my early 30s. So it was a big thing for me. And yet these days, I think a whole generation or two maybe's kind of missed out on that, which is a shame. The original Ghan Railway was constructed with the intention of connecting the south of Australia with the north. This was a mammoth undertaking. In 1879, the service started between Port Augusta and Corn. It took 50 years of building before the line even reached Alice Springs, but it wasn't until 2004, 126 years after construction began, that the new Ghan Railway finally reached Darwin. In the early days, it was very common for there to be washouts of the track, and get this, passengers were expected to give the crew a hand fixing the track so they could get moving again as soon as possible. How good's that?
I knew about the Old Ghan, all the little bits and pieces of the Old Ghan. I knew it had been ripped up, the old lines, and I knew that for a certain section of it, we could actually drive along the lines. But I was unaware of all the history and all the bits and pieces and railway yards and whatnot along the way.
This is Rodinga,
Rodinga.
which is about the last station built, well not station but Fettlers' cottages.
I've always wanted to come and see the Old Ghan in the winter.
Oh, don't be a big sook. Imagine how it was for the people who built it. One story tells of a conductor on the Ghan confronted one day by a young woman complaining of severe stomach pains, the early stages of labour. Flustered, the conductor complained, "You should never have boarded the train in that condition," to which the woman panted between contractions, "I wasn't in this condition when I boarded your damn train."
Hey, look at this. There's an original bit of the railway track. Imagine the upkeep on the maintenance. Things getting hot and cold.
A lot of work.
A lot of work.
It's funny though, eh? I mean, no one was really interested in the centre country.
Wonder why.
What have we got today? Oh, flies.
Oh, flies,
Oh,
crickets, heat.
Oh, you big sooks, come on.
Why would you need a fire out here? It makes things hot.
Sub-zero temperatures in the winter and 40 degree plus in summer.
It brought to life a lot of the history that's out there, and you know, you close your eyes, you can actually feel and see how things were back in those days and how huge this project was.
I guess the funny thing about these Radinga ruins is that they're not that old, you know, really, not in the great terms of history. This was still probably fully roofed and everything else in the 70s and 80s. The reason that the Old Ghan and the Overland Telegraph track, for that matter, took this particular route was because they followed the water soaks that explorer John Stewart had mapped out across the country. Demineralisation towers were built so that bore water could be used. That police wagon, when they pulled me over, they just said that this road's officially closed, guys. Didn't see any closed signs, but they said we'd be okay. But it's still closed after all those rains.
Any word of when the grader's going to be running through it?
No. She just said it hadn't been through since the rains. I was really looking forward to this trip because, well, I know the Fink region fairly well. I know it from the 80s riding motorbikes there. And then, of course, we ran tours through there and we tested four-wheel drives and all sorts of things. But this time around, we're on our way to see Lake Eyre with water in it. That alone is one of those bucket list excitement things. And then to find out on the way to Fink that the track we're on is actually supposed to be shut. It's just nobody left the signs up. Adventure, you betcha.
It's funny when you're out in the desert, you'll be driving along and there's nothing for ages, and then you always seem to find something that's just that little bit different.
Hey Kenno, I wonder if that mountain thing on the left-hand side is a tabletop for the Fink race.
Guys, most of those mountains over there have a flat top except for one. It looks like it's got a nipple on top of it, and I think it might be cold over there.
Well, I've seen that mountain that the boys were having a good old chuckle about before, so I suppose it didn't really do it for me, but the funny thing is it used to be known as Maiden's Breast, so it's not as if they or even me were the first ones to figure there's a bit of a similarity. Well, that's Blokes for you. Mate, I've got a bit of rattle going on here in the rear uni. That's the diff, and that's the uni. Can you see it?
It's a bit flogged.
Yeah. Diff doesn't sound too pretty though.
It's called universal joint.
Universal joint.
Bit flog.
You happy with the diff play?
Yeah.
That's not bad, is it?
No, that's all right.
Yeah. Okay, well that's not too bad. We'll get into Fink, because that's only about probably 30, 40 k's or something.
It's not bad.
No, it doesn't look like it's going to explode.
Aboriginal communities can be fairly intimidating to people who aren't used to them for a whole lot of reasons. One of the ones is because if you're a white fella in an Aboriginal community, you're like a ghost, you know. You can walk through and no one's going to notice you. The dogs might have a sniff at you. People will talk right across your face and everything else until you say something to them. You have to say g'day or smile or do something, and then you'll get a smile back. And Fink has always been one of the nicest bunches of people on earth. They're just lovely people. The front one moves the same way too.
Is it?
Yeah. What does that mean? Does that mean we fill it full of grease and cross fingers?
Yeah. Probably been like that since we left then.
They must have just changed the design of the unis or something. If you could suss out that workshop, see...
I'll go for a run. We're rocking around to the council workshop to see if they have a grease gun. So we can pack some grease into the unis of Milo. Righto, the boss man of the council has got the keys to this storeroom here, which has got the grease gun. So I'll set up a couple of traps around town, see if we can get him. Vanished. Nowhere to be seen. So, we'll just have to wait for it to come out to his ute and nab him on his way.
Well, that's how Glenn is. He keeps on going and he finally found him. Good on you, mate. Righto, let's give this a go, guys. Gee, that's a loose fit, Kenno. I'll do your tight and fit. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, Kenno, that's working. That's it.
Yeah, beautiful.
This is a good thing to remember. You know, like Pete is the local council employee. He's the only one in the whole community. And his primary responsibility is to keep the electricity and the water happening. Okay? And then slightly under that is things like helping people out, repairing things. But basically, he's the guy who does pretty much everything around here that needs doing. So, you can bet he's the guy who's got all the good bits and pieces. And he's also a really helpful fella too. Well, with the uni as good as it's going to get for a while, we head out of town.
Obviously, we spent a few hours fixing Milo. It was late in the day, so it was advised that we don't travel at night. We take it very cautiously, even in the daylight, because there's still a lot of spikes from the old railway line and the washaways, where the road had been washed away from the recent floods.
This is such a beautiful time of day. As the sun dips closer to the horizon, we've got our eyes peeled for a campsite. We found a clearing big enough for all of our vehicles and we start getting set up. I guess we've done this a few times now, but it really doesn't take us long at all.
Let's eat, guys. I got well done. Here, 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 here. Mediums. Here, 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 here. Medium rare. Here and here. You and me, Gleno.
That is a meal.
It's a bushman's meal, that one.
I'm going to enjoy it so much. And I know Gleno's going to enjoy it even more than me. Man, that smells good. Every morning, just after first light, there's a few minutes before even the birds have woken up. It's like the earth is catching a breath between the night and the day and just having a moment of peace. But it doesn't last for long. Thanks for your help yesterday, guys. But it cost us a bit of time mucking around with Milo.
Oh, well, mate, she, as long as she's driving better.
I like how the plan changes every 5 minutes. It's great.
Ah, the old girl feels heaps better now. And just look at that smooth ride.
Yeah, we were driving along the road and saw a grave on the right-hand side, but it was a big, open, flat plain going out to it. It was quite nice to drive on.
There's a lot of lonely graves in Australia. Joseph McFarlane,
And what's the story behind this fella?
1883 he
Wow.
died. He was a teamster, you know, working on the bullock drays.
So he accidentally shot himself.
The Aboriginal bloke he had off-siding for him reckons he was reaching down to pull this saddle out, and underneath the saddle was the shotgun, which was loaded, and it went off and discharged straight through him. When the inspector got here, there he was, dead on the dray, and so he pretty much put it together straight away, and they buried him here. And it's a funny, lonely sort of a place to die, isn't it? Shame about this stone breaking.
Yeah.
Apparently the local word is that it's there's been quite a bit of destruction of whitefella stuff, because there's a bit of resentment amongst the mob, and they tend to take it out on anything the whitefella left. That's the local word, but nobody knows for sure. That's all.
Well, we might leave this fella alone, eh?
I think so, mate. He's been alone for a long time.
Yeah.
These roads are different after a bit of rain, aren't they?
Yeah, it's washed away, isn't it? They need to get the grader through here.
The thing about the roads out here is that all they've done is run a grader through the middle of a flat paddock. And that means that whenever there's a lot of rain on that flat paddock, the road's going to turn into a river. And for most of us, for most of the time, that won't make a huge amount of difference. But you'll see, whenever you see a rip in the side, you know, the graded edge, you'll know that water's come through. And whenever water's come through, there's likely to be a dirty, great big rut. And sometimes that rut will be the same size as your wheels, which means it can rip your front or back end off or something. It can be quite dangerous. So it's really all about trying to take it easy when you can, and being aware that the other great thing that happens when a road turns into a river is that there'll be a whole lot of soft silt and sand and stuff like that. You can always just disappear.
And the corrugations, they're pretty wild.
I think Wolfie's getting a bit car sick.
All the washways that we encountered were okay if you were travelling slow, you know, at say 20, 30 kilometres an hour when you come up to them. But if you hit these at greater speeds, say 80 or 100 kilometres an hour, you can do massive damage to your car. You may even roll it. They're that big.
Here's the gate, guys. This is the South Australian border, and it means Mount Dare's about 10 k's.
Mate, back in South Oz again, eh? We're attracted to it. It's like a magnet to us.
It's taken a little while. I thought as soon as we left Alice, we wouldn't be far from the border, but we'll probably take one of your shortcuts again, haven't we, John?
Always, mate, always. Oh, Mount Dare. I guess it's the great big breathing spot after a Simo crossing, but it doesn't matter which direction you hit Mount Dare from, it's always welcome. We're lucky that Dave and his family are even here at the moment. A lot of places like this are closed in the summer, and February is definitely summer in the land down under. While we're here, we'll do all the usual things. Have a cold drink, sign the guest book, and of course, enjoy a good old meat pie. Tradition, people! Well, that was just the pick-me-up we needed before heading out into the blistering heat again. It's no surprise we didn't pass anyone else on the way in.
We're out here in the middle of summer. There's not many people out here. The reason we're here is for the water. It's rained. But what sort of brought it home to me is the heat and the flies and that sort of thing. It's a very harsh environment, but also the distances between destinations. There's nothing close. There's never a short trip between towns. It's always basically a full tank of fuel. So this isn't everyone's cup of tea out here. You know, these sorts of conditions, a lot of people would be heading back to the big smoke with their tail between their legs, quick smart.
This looks like the old Ghan crossing up here, guys. I've never crossed it here. I don't know how much will be left.
Interested to see if there's any old ruins, mate, sleepers or anything, because we haven't sort of seen anything from up north, have we?
No, just plenty of nails.
I've always wanted to come out and have a bit of a look around the Old Ghan Railway line, and this is pretty much right up my alley.
Well, mate, there's your alley. That raised bit on the right-hand side. And on the left, and there's nothing there. A couple of ratty sleepers, and that'll be it. Low range is all about finding the different things, you know, and Dalhousie had been on the original plan, but everyone goes to Dalhousie, and thanks to a road closure, we were forced to go to Warringah. Forced? Wow. If I'd have known how nice Warringah was, I'd have gone and stayed for a month.
The Warringah campsite was awesome. We came over this hill and it had been dry all day, we hadn't seen any water, and next thing there's this big waterhole surrounded by beautiful gum trees, and I went, this has got to be one of the best campsites on this trip.
When I first jumped in the water at Warringah, well, firstly I thought it was a mirage. I think this can't be real. In the middle of the outback, here's this massive waterhole. There's a fish in there, and I'm sure there was a big cod got me on the back. But the feeling of getting in that water, it wasn't hot, it wasn't like bath water. It was nice and cool, it was refreshing. It's exactly what we needed after a couple of 1,000 kilometres on dusty, hot roads.
We didn't realise this at the time, but Warringah actually used to be part of the Sir Sydney Kidman holdings. Kidman himself lived in a homestead not far from here, and on top of that, John McDowell Stewart camped here many times during his explorations in the 1860s. Camp right here, at this waterhole. This really is something special. Right now, special request from the Gleno. Can we have some meatballs? Meatballs. Well, we could, except we've got about 2.8 minutes because we're really hungry. It's the end of the day. We've been travelling all day. Actually, none of those are good reasons. But I have wanted to try this for a fair while. What I've got here is boerwurst. Look at that. I've got 3 of them. Boerwurst is a South African sausage. Very tough. A lot like South Africans, full stop bang. Anyway, the whole idea is we're going to use these as our meatballs. I've got Glen and Ken working on cooking up the pasta because this is going to be spaghetti and meatballs, Roothy style. We're just going to put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and a good old Gleno shake of salt in the pot. And then when that water comes to the boil, meanwhile, I'm cutting up the boerwurst to make the meatballs. How easy is that? How's that water going, guys?
It's
boiling, mate.
boiling, ready for you,
Oh,
mate.
is it?
Yep.
Oh, lovely. There you go, mate. How many grams in that?
Oh, about 25.
500. I've been waiting all trip for that to happen. You've been leaning back in
I
his
didn't spill a
chair.
drop.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
unreal, mate. Oh,
not a-
you are a real surfer, aren't you?
It's not a recliner.
You just went down with the big splash, no problems at all.
Anyone seen the other thong?
How'd we go with that? Oh, yeah, that's the way. Look, see what Gleno's doing? When you're camping, don't bother mucking around with great big lengths of spaghetti. Break it up a little bit. It makes it so much easier at the next stage, which is eating it.
Here you go. Looking after you.
Righto. Now there's going to be a little bit of cooking in this. So why don't you come back in about 1 beer's time when I've knocked up this sausage. Oh, hang on, just before you go. Fingers are slippery. Just, oops, come on out of there, mate. Look at that, a little bit of extra protein. Off he goes.
That garlic?
Just a little bit of extra garlic.
Is that all?
Only a taste. Sorry, mate. I'll put in some more as soon as it stops rolling. Welcome back. Not a lot's happened except Gleno's come up with a name for our meal tonight. What was it, mate?
Knob pasta.
There you go, knob pasta, because we put just a knob of garlic in it. Is that right?
That's it.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Watch the chair, Kenno. Righto, here we go. Now, we've cooked up the boerwurst, okay? It's just about cooked. You could cook it longer, except we're really hungry. And we've cooked it up with a little bit of garlic and it just smells fantastic. At this stage, this is basil pesto. Don't mind the look of the stuff. It's really good. Don't look at it. Oops, don't listen to the sound it makes either, okay? All right, now over here, tomato puree. There we go. Whack that straight on top. That can go in our bin. And of course, this is tomato paste. Right, now what else do we need? And over here I have, this is just a can of button mushrooms. It's because our producer, Mel, she insists that we have something vegetable in everything. So I don't know if a button mushroom is a vegetable, it's probably a fungus or something, but there you go, Mel. Buttons, in they go.
Close enough, John. That's
This is
close
because
enough.
Mel's Nana reckons that my cooking's lousy. So if you're watching this, Nana, knob pasta, you wouldn't like it anyway. Okay, now we're going to whack in some honey. Why? Because we can. There we go, good squirrel of honey. And of course I wanted to put tomato pieces in. And I'm going to, yes I am. And this, don't worry about the smoke bit, that's what it says in big letters. Down here it says chili and garlic. We're not even interested in the garlic because we've already got lots of that in. Whoops, just a little bit. Made a bit of a mistake there. Sorry, Nana, just a little bit extra. Have you got my pasta spoon over there?
Yep, sure do.
There you go, mate. Just a little serve to start with.
Thanks, mate.
Just to try it out. Oh, you want some parmesan?
Yeah, go on.
You want to do it?
If you have to.
Peter Russell Clark would be rolling
go.
over
Good
in
on
his
you, thank
grave
you.
if he was dead.
Good on you, Kenno.
Yeah, mate. Do you want some? You want to do it yourself?
I thought that was yours.
I'm not fussed, mate. I'll eat anything except stuff I've cooked myself, you know. That's a bit of a worry. Oops.
Is that yours?
Yep.
Knob
Fork
pasta.
for you, mate.
Knob pasta.
Beautiful.
How easy was that? Can we please have a report on the knob pasta?
Certainly can. Ho, ho, ho.
If you want to impress your mates, cook them up some knob pasta. It'll make a knob out of someone. Righto, mate, let's go sit down. After such a hearty meal, we slept really well. I'll tell you something for nothing. A lot of birds reside in the gums of the Ringa waterhole and they don't believe in sleeping in. I'll tell you who does though. 3 points to you, mate. Oh, 6 points to you. Hit the van.
Here, your turn now.
Kenno's been asleep for hours.
Everyone's up, packing their stuff away, and he's still in the caravan snoring his head off. And he complains if we make too much of a racket outside.
Yay!
Guys,
Hey!
what's going on?
Come on, Kenno. Sporting day, mate.
I thought I was in a meteorite shower or something. Where'd you get that from?
We've been up for hours, mate. Come on, we've got to make a move.
Is breakfast ready?
Whatever, Kenno. Cop this, mate.
These cattle yards were used during the days Sydney Kidman owned the station. When Kidman left Adelaide at the age of 14, he had one horse to his name. By the time he died at 78, he owned 200,000 cattle and 250,000 sheep. Funnily enough, the Kidman family has just announced that they're putting the business up for sale, with many of the cattle properties being held by the company for over 100 years. What a legacy, eh? Ah, finally, a chance to wash all the dirt out from under the cars. Well, I'm sure it won't take long to come back. Kenno was keener than us for a wash. Righto guys, we turn left here for Oodnadatta, and this is the fabulous Oodnadatta track.
Woohoo! Finally made it.
You beauty. I've always wanted to do the Oodnadatta track.
Good, well we're doing it. Here we go, 17 k's to Oodna. Oodnadatta, I've seen it fairly busy sometimes in the winter months, you know, but in the summer months, and especially in the middle of the day, well, this is Australia's hottest and driest town. So they just go on siesta, and who can blame them? It was just like a ghost town.
It's a town that everybody in Australia knows the name, Oodnadatta. People want to go there. Might have something to do with the time of year, February being really hot, but even the pink roadhouse was shut. There was a few flies around though. That was about it.
We couldn't get any fuel at Oodnadatta, so luckily we've still got enough to get us to the next town of William Creek. Hopefully the fuel station there's open. This is the Alga-Pakina Bridge on the Old Ghan Railway, and it's the largest single span bridge in South Australia. Still is to this day as far as I'm aware. But look at this for an amazing project. I mean, this is in the 1880s. So you think about it, it's 30 years after the last convict ship came to Australia, and it's 30 years before the First World War. It's actually 20 years before Australia was even Australia. So this was actually the little colony of South Australia making a major project. 60 grand, 60,000 pounds worth of project in the days when the average bloke probably earned £5 a year for chasing sheep around a paddock. It's an amazing thing. It employed a whole lot of people. So you see, really, in the 1880s, it was projects like the Ghan Railway, south to the north, and the telegraph line, hooking up Australia to the rest of the world. That was like this little convict colony suddenly playing with the big boys. We were telling the world that we've come of age. Pretty impressive bridge. I hope it's here forever.
So all the locals that we've come across out here, they're all telling us we're crazy, what are you doing here? But we're here because it rained. The desert's copped some water. It's the best time to get out here. It might be hot and flies everywhere and that sort of thing, but I think it's worth it. Definitely worth the trip.
When it rains in these parts, there's one particular place that people flock to see, and we're getting closer to that place with every kilometre. We've made it to William Creek, population 6, and we're all very relieved to see someone manning the bowsers. It's open! Hey mate!
G'day, how you going?
Alright, a bit dry.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sounds like you might need a bit.
Yeah, truck's a bit dry too.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit of a pub connoisseur. I don't mind going to a pub and having a look around, and when John was telling us that we were going to end up in the most remote pub in the world, that got me pretty excited. Definitely looking forward to that.
What's that,
Hey
Kenno?
dog!
You got to watch you.
Hey.
Yourself, dog.
How are you mate?
Yeah, g'day, Trevor, how you going?
G'day Trev, John.
G'day, John.
Trevor, Kenno.
G'day.
Glenn.
Mate.
Glenn!
Trevor? Yes, me, mate.
Oh my God, you look like me. I found my double in life.
There's something slightly crazy about isolated pubs. I've seen some really weird things happen there.
What do you reckon, Bert?
G'day Bert,
mate.
how are you
How
mate?
you doing?
You alright? You alright? You good? How you,
Yeah, we
Bert?
had to put a collar on him so he didn't get shot. Hey, Bert, this is Woofy here.
This is Wolfie, Bert.
Have a smell.
The place has traditions, like any place. And one of those traditions used to be to hang G-strings. But the whole point is that the health department came along and said this is a health risk. When bureaucracy that does nothing for a place like William Creek comes along and starts adding restrictions, you got to fight back.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
What's up, mate?
I'll take that.
Aww.
Thank you.
Here you go, mate.
That dog looks familiar.
That's weird.
Hey guys, can't come to Lake Eyre in the wet without going for a flight.
Nah, mate. Heard great things about this.
What better way to see Lake Eyre with water in it than from the air, I say.
Hey, hang on a minute. That fella over there looks familiar.
Oh, it's not, is it?
Must be twins or triplets or quads.
Here we meet again.
You felt going to be flying us too?
Mate, we can do everything out here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whether it works out or not's another thing.
This bloke pumped our fuel. He was behind the bar. He drove the fire truck. And when we went to book our scenic flight over Lake Eyre, he took the booking. I don't know whether to trust this guy.
All right, well listen,
Two I
who
see.
do we see, you or the dingo, about booking a flight tomorrow morning?
Well, the dingo will probably howl outside your door in the morning.
Righto.
So he'll get you out of bed. Just see me. I'll sort out your flight.
Beauty.
And we'll get young Tay to take you for a fly.
All right, well let's go and see where else Trevor's hanging out in this town then.
Let's go
Thanks,
see if
Trev.
he's working in that burger shop down the road. So we got up early, head down to the airstrip, get ready to jump in the planes for the flight to Lake Eyre. It's dark.
Morning, Talia.
Morning.
I'm Glenn. How are you?
Good to see you.
Business class up to the left, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
So here's this little girl who's young enough to be my daughter, but you know, I rapidly realised that she's one of the most efficient pilots around. At one stage she was the youngest chief pilot in Australia.
Just as we're taking off, just noticed the sun ready to start cracking into the sky. I guess I felt a little bit privileged to be seeing the lake with water in it, because it doesn't happen very often.
lake air from the air. Wow. Just a bird's eye view, like being an eagle and seeing the colours and the dimensions and how that mirror effect. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. And until you've seen it, you just don't realise how special this is.
The flight over Lake Eyre was very special. It's something that's on a lot of people's bucket list, and I got to do it. I got to do it at sunrise, which was very special. The colours in the lake, the reflection in the lake. We are actually very lucky to see it with water in it.
It was beautiful, there was no wind or anything like that. Yeah, it was sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity, I think.
We've ticked that off the bucket list and we're on a high. That was just one of the most magnificent things I've ever seen. Time to head south and jump on the Strzelecki track. And as you do in the outback, we're bound to see a few eccentric things along the way.
Water tank that looks like a dog, bus that looks like a jet plane. What's that, a windmill that looks like a daffodil? I think someone had a lot of time on their hands, eh?
They wrote on the side the Ghan hover bus. It's a hover bus.
Get a load of this twin, it's two planes planted in there.
I also saw a dolphin in the fence back there.
I think that place is on its way to becoming an Australian icon.
It's been years since I've stopped into the Bubbler Springs, and I reckon the guys will get a real kick out of this.
Not a bad spot, John.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it, really, the way you got this, water and greenery in the middle of all this desert. Most people don't realise, but back in Gondwana days, Australia did have an inland sea. Over millions of years, when ocean levels rose, water became trapped in a natural dip in the centre and formed a sea. But when the ocean levels fell, the whole area became land again. And when those seas drained away, they left clay and silt deposits behind, which hardened into impermeable stone. Now, as time went on and the rivers crossed the land, they left sandstone. So all of a sudden, you have hard stone that nothing can get through, and on top of that, you've got sandstone that filters water, and that makes an aquifer.
If it rains now on the Great Dividing Range, does that water then come here in 2 million years?
Yeah.
Wow. You going to go in?
No, we're not allowed to.
I don't reckon you'd be able to get out. It looks like the whole bottom's like quicksand, mate.
I'd go down pretty quick.
Whoa. The heat can really get to a bloke out here, fair dinkum.
Look, I don't know what I did, but I don't know if it was ignoring me. It was a bit weird. It was like you'd seen a ghost or something.
The Strzelecki is just wide, flat, boring and beaten up by trucks, and it's just no fun. When I had a look at the map and realised that there was just a chance we might be able to go another way, well, everyone was into it.
Hey guys, here's the turn off to Mount Freeling.
There's a shortcut, John.
Could be a long cut.
Yeah, let's give it a crack, eh?
As John does, I know a shortcut. And we took a turn, and that's where the adventure actually started.
There's nothing that gets me going more than turning down a track I haven't been down before, and especially when I've really got no idea of what to expect from it, or even if we can get all the way through. That's the real adventure. Hey guys, this nice mountain country's a whole lot more interesting than the Stress Leggy.
Certainly is, mate. My VMS actually says that we're in the North Flinders. I think we might have taken a wrong turn. I don't know how we ended up in the Flinders again.
Yeah, you spend all your life, you know, wanting to come to the Flinders, and we've done it a couple of times in a row.
Yeah, it's kind of an accident, but shows what a big place the Flinders is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. Very pretty.
Carving our way through an old track in the most northern part of the Flinders Ranges was really specky. I mean, this is the oldest part of one of the oldest ranges on earth, and it looks it. Even the rocks look kind of shabby and worn, and oh boys, it's special. It's just beautiful country, and you kept getting the feeling that you might be the first person to look at it for a while too. Wow, that was fun. Whoa! Visibility down to about 0. That's what happens in Milo when you hit bull dust. That is a lot of bull dust right there, far out. Sometimes you take a risk and it pays off, and this time it did, big time. Well, certainly found our slightly smaller track, guys.
Our goat track, you mean?
Looks like it's been graded at one time.
Yeah, it was a road at one stage, but no one's been here for a fair while. It's just the way we like it.
These hills make me feel like I'm in Ireland or something.
Pretty harsh here. This is almost like a farm track, and it's supposed to be the main route. I love it.
Yeah, I think we're on a track that has not been travelled for a long time.
The track went from being fairly wide and not too hard because it accessed a talc mine and a four-wheel drive station, and then all of a sudden it just petered out into, you know, you can still see there was a track there, but no one had driven there for months, certainly not the other side of the range. So that's when you get real adventure. Big dipper coming up, Kenno.
Is it going to be a caravan on its side sort of dipper?
Oh, not if you're taking it out the right way, I think. Probably want to straddle this humpy bit so that you don't drop a wheel down into that little low bit, I imagine.
Roger that. Oh, Gleno.
Your turn, Kenno.
I'm dropping in. And I am through the Humpty Dumpty.
Well done, Humpty Dumpty. What are you doing, Kenno?
Just checking out the bushwalking leaflet, mate.
What, out here?
Yep.
Mate, it's 38 degrees.
Hey guys, it's going to be great. It's going to be fitness, get out of your comfort zone. What do you reckon? You keen or what?
Oh, yeah, mate, love to. Yeah. Right up here, eh?
How good's the view going to be from up there?
Yeah, it's only 7.1 k's, it's 38 degrees. We'll trot it in. Come on.
3.5 hours.
I'm just going to have to grab me water bottle and a couple of things, mate.
Okay,
right?
yep. Gleno, let's go,
Mate,
eh?
no, I've got some walking shoes in the car, mate.
And I'll meet you up there.
Okay, cool.
That's where I'll stop for a drink.
All right.
Righto. I won't be long, mate.
I'll see
No
you
worries,
up
mate.
there.
Just be there in a minute.
Come, mate.
Oh, yeah, mate. Yeah, into it. Just got to find me water bottle.
On in.
No, I'll be right there. No, fine.
Mate, I'm going to get going.
Yeah, okay, mate. I'll be with you in a minute.
Right, bud.
I've spent most of the day in Milo at 50 plus degrees, getting blasted in the face by dust, And Kenno hops out of his air-conditioned Hilux and wants to do a bushwalk.
Look, yeah, get out of my comfort zone, give it a go. I gave it a crack. Don't know what happened to John though.
Well, as it turns out, we never made it to Cameron's Corner on this trip because it was shut for the summer. Doesn't matter one bit though. We'll get there next time.
On this trip, I became grateful for quite a few things. The first thing is travelling with a bunch of guys with a can-do attitude. The second thing is travelling with vehicles that are ready to go, well maintained. And the third thing is having a tour guide like John Ruth. It's quite eerie coming into the outback when it's this hot in summer. I always thought it was a no-no, but John, he just knows his stuff. And I'm so grateful that we did this trip. There was times, yeah, it was really tough, mainly because of the heat, but who am I to complain? Here's Roothy driving along in Milo with no air conditioning, no dust seals. It's a trip of a lifetime that we've just completed.
As a younger man, I used to pride myself on being a bit of a hard bugger. And this trip, I kind of feel like the young me came back again. I feel younger and stronger because of it, because it was hard and it was hot. But it also, it just makes you appreciate, once again, that there's another season out here. There's the stinking hot season with water around. It's different. You don't see it all the time. I kind of feel like I've put another dot on my personal map, if that makes sense. And I've been here before, but I've not been here like this before. And that's good.
I can tell with a hat like that, this man's got a bit of class.
You haven't seen anyone for a while, have you?
Yeah, lovely out here. Are you rolling, Gavin?
Can't you sit up beside your stubby?
Are you, Gavin, rolling? I can do that.
Okay, where's set?
Melanie, no laughing. Oh, he's really enjoying it. Oh, this is away. Oh,
Yeah, Gleno, we're not even rolling anymore.
we're not filming anymore, Glenn. I think he likes you, Gavin.
That fly went straight in my mouth.
Can we have a man-to-man chat? Do you think you can control that woman of
I'm
yours?
going to try my best.
Try your best.
See how we go,
Try
okay?
your best, all right?
Let's see what happens after this cooking thing.
Okay.
Don't fall in love yet, Bert. We had your nuts cut off. So we're trying to keep him off the grog at the moment.
He looks like he's having a hangover today, doesn't he?
The human diffuser.
Look at the man with the halo on his head up here.
And the distances between
I reckon that would have got a shot.
Shing-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding. Look what Mel, the producer, puts us through. She's had me sitting out here in the bloody boiling sun, and there's actually a Kenno print on my Darchie chair.
Show us your back.
I'm a bit concerned about that patch at the bottom.
Oh.
What is that?
Oh.
Gavin to sit in it.
Need to lick it.
I never asked for these guys' signature, so yeah, I'm gonna get this tattooed like a hardcore fan. Nice. You gotta sign it too then, Kenno.
Hey, he's got a really funny spot for you to sign.
One says Root and one says Gleno. The other side.
Well, I lost the H and the Y.
Root. Well, here's one towards the six-pack.
3 hours of sunshine is equal to a soak in a bucket of chlorine. That's a fact I just made up,
Oh.
but
Okay,
it's
now,
fairly true.
now prove it.
What if people
Lick
were
the
only
table.
here an hour ago?
You can't.
What if people were only here an hour ago, John?
Oh.
There was probably some dirty truckie here half an hour ago.
Sleeping on the table.
Oh, I think I can just see him now. Oh, my roids are itchy. Oh, I'll just scrub my roids on the table. You've been travelling with Gavin. How can you say that was the funniest thing you've seen all day when you've been travelling with this guy?
I hope it's nice and cool tonight to sleep.
What happens when it stops? Yeah, come on.
Yeah, Gleno doesn't sleep. Gleno gets about an hour and a half. Gleno wakes up cranky.
Naturally seasoned.
I think the difference between these and the Smith's chicken crisps. Hang on, just. Is the packet.
And Melanie, of course, wants to go the long way via half a dozen other places, which are east and west of that track.
I was actually thinking this grass here, quite green.
It's not our big
All on it. Especially that little patch.
Yes.
I'm not a master chef. I'm a bush cook.
Ant, how do we filter water in the outback?
Easy. Clean and fresh.
Glenn, I don't know if this is built for you.
Hey, how come the plane just took a big lurch to the right?
I put my mic on around my seatbelt. Very good at this, aren't I?
You want rap? You want bad rap? You want really bad rap?
I'm the guy.
He's the guy. He's the guy. Oh, jeez, it's hot in here. What do you got?
Icy pails and icy cold water.
Oh, mate.
What's the temperature in here?
46 degrees.
Oh, lovely.
Nice and cool in here.
Icy pile might work out for you.
Oh, mate, I'd almost kiss you. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. Thanks, Kenno.
Oh dear.